Hello, hello. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I want to come on here really quickly and talk to you guys about confidence in action because, quite frankly, I just had a really disturbing experience. Let's talk about it. So, typically, today I had a podcast interview scheduled and I ended up canceling it on the spot. And I'm going to tell you why I had to cancel it on the spot. And this is, any women in business who can relate to this, please let me know because so often when things like this happen and you're a woman in business, particularly a Black woman in business, you are told, maybe you're seeing things, maybe you're overreacting, etc. So I host the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast, and it is a wildly successful podcast. We have several people who watch it and who listen in and who download it all over the country. We interview people from all walks of life all the time. I had a particular guest who was on my podcast or scheduled to be on my podcast today. And this guest's energy was way off. Now I sound like my friend Jasmine here. And what happened was when this man came on initially, it was just a lot of weird energy. So he begins to question me, interrogate me before the podcast interview. Who are you? What have you accomplished? Do you know everything about me? What do? You don't do the little lawyer thing anymore. Just utilizing belittling words and aggressive gestures. This is what's visibly happening. So I'm left with a choice. Now I'm telling you guys about why I'm not interviewing this particular guest anymore. I'm not going to say their name, I don't think. We'll see how the interview goes. So I have this experience with this particular guest, and he's utilizing, aggressive gestures, really belittling language, really just just bad energy, right? And it comes a point this is the pre-interview now, guys. This just happens. I'm telling you guys this in real time. So this is the pre-interview. And what ends up happening is there's a portion in the pre-interview, like when we're just talking before we go live, where he goes, well, what do you know about me? What do you know about me? Tell me what you know about me. Tell me if you know who I am, because I looked you up and I'm confused about what you do and who you are and all these different things. Just aggressive, belittling language. Now it's Black History Month, number one. Women's History Month is next month. I don't tolerate that level of disrespect in any month, but I believe these are things that women go through, and we're told, particularly women, and I had not experienced this since, the only time I experienced that type of an interaction, that type of aggressive behavior, that type of disrespect, unfortunately, is typically when I am prospecting, and on the other side is a white male, unfortunately. As an entrepreneur, that's been the only time I've personally had to experience that. I don't experience all the time. I've interviewed so many people that have been amazing, and it has not been an issue. But when it has been an issue in my entrepreneurial life, that has been the common denominator. And I'm talking about this really because there are certain moments where you have to determine, in my opinion, because I train a lot of people on how to have courageous conversations, how to address things head on, what to do in those moments. And one thing that I know, as I was coming up in corporate America, a lot of the moments that I regretted throughout my corporate America journey were the moments when I allowed people to talk to me in a disrespectful manner, and I said nothing because I was worried about losing my job. So when this man came on my platform, wanting to be on my platform and talk to me in a disrespectful, demeaning tone with aggressive hand gestures, I'm a lawyer, so this is how I'm going to describe this, because this is what it was. I'm being as objective as I can be in my speech, because what I want to say, I'm not going to say. So when all that started to happen, I was faced with this moment of how will I handle this to get me out of this situation? And he decided to pivot to lecturing me on all the things that I need to do this, that, and the other. And I literally had to say, you know what? I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to stop you right there, because obviously this is not a good fit. But let me be very clear. I have interviewed over 70 people from all walks of life who have all had a phenomenal experience on this platform. This is not going to happen. I wish you the best. Goodbye. And I had to end it. Here's the takeaway. You do not have to allow people to disrespect your platform or your person. At the moment that someone shows you that they cannot handle who you are in that moment, you should have language to end the conversation and protect your peace. And because we're in Black History Month and we're heading into Women's History Month, I know there are so many women. If you are a woman in business, sorry, fellas, for a minute. If you are a woman in business and you have dealt with a man talking down to you, being degrading to you, disrespecting your accomplishments, then just drop a yes in the comments. Because I want to make sure I'm not alone on this. Because one of the things that he said, and I talk about this a lot, is you did the lawyer thing. What exactly does that entail? Because I went to Northwestern Law, graduated top of my class, went on to work at Kirkland & Ellis LLP, tried cases around the country, and then decided to launch my own firm. It's not the lawyer thing. And it was the tone and the language that he utilized to describe it. What I notice in abusers and in people who are disrespectful with their language, they know exactly how to say certain things to get under your skin or attempt to without being objectively disrespectful. So there was no cursing, there was no yelling, there was none of that. But the tone in which the communication occurred showed me that he did not respect who I was. And so at that point, he did not deserve to be on my platform because, again, I don't work in corporate. You know what I mean? I own my own business. And so while I totally relate to people who are in corporations and who are dealing with bosses like this dude, this white guy who decided to do this morning. I mean, I'm not in that position. So I felt very comfortable telling him, absolutely not. This is going to end today, right now. And I shared a post earlier on LinkedIn. Yeah, someone commented and said they look for triggers, and when they find it, they continue to do it. That's so true. So true. And I remember, I immediately recognized the disrespectful, abusive behavior, because I remember at one point before, while he's talking, I just go like this. Who do you think you are? Was my question. This is my show. This is how we roll over here. So I don't tolerate that. And I absolutely hate bullies. I hate bullies. And it was bullying vibes all day long. But I want to share with you all, a comment that I saw earlier that I actually shared on LinkedIn. And it was by Madeline McQueen. And she said, I'm going to read it so that I can get it right. Listen to this. And I'm sharing this because I don't know if we talk about this enough, because frankly, a lot of women, when things like this happen and they are disrespected, they don't talk about it because you don't want to be labeled as difficult. So this is what Madeline said. Time to change the narrative about Black women in the workplace. It's tiring. In this very month of February 2021, Black History Month in the US, I've had a number of my Black female clients tell me the same thing. They have been called difficult. It's annoying beyond belief. Why are they called difficult? Well, it's the same old reasons. They have a voice and are using it. They ask questions. They seek to understand why and how things are done. They challenge things that don't make sense. They are really good at what they do. And that means they don't let nonsense slide. Relate if you can relate, okay? They have great ideas which challenge a poor status quo. Oh yeah, and because they are Black women, basically, they are often several times better at their job than many of the average people with whom they work because they can't afford not to be. These are qualities that should be championed instead of being berated for having a difficult voice. Yeah. There's more to it, but I won't read the last part. But it is very good. I shared it on my LinkedIn page, and I'm reading that because here's the thing, guys. Here's how we know that racism and privilege works. If this man were to have been my boss, he would have labeled me difficult. He would have said I'm overreacting. He would have said you're being disrespectful. You didn't do your due diligence. Because the moment I told him I was not going to interview him, he then went on to let me just tell you what you need to do. Absolutely not so. You are not my superior. You are not in that position in my life. And so you do not have the right to tell me how I should act and behave. And your tone is such that it is disrespectful. Let me be very clear that we are more than equals. And I think that the reason why so many people struggle with confidence and struggle to have difficult conversations and struggle to, frankly, put people in their place when they see bad behavior is because we have been conditioned to believe that when certain people walk into the room with certain credentials, we are no longer equal to them, and thus their voice has more power and should get more credence than ours. I am here to tell you that is not the case. It is not true, and it is a lie. Okay? So if you need permission to have the conversations you need to have or to tell people how to treat you, then let this be your permission right before Women's History Month today, because it is not about experience or qualifications or any of that, because the first thing he went to do would say, well, I have 25 years of experience in the speaking industry and I have X, Y, and Z, and I've done all these things. And let me be, and I had to say, I just interviewed a guy who had over 35 years of speaking experience, and he did not utter one disrespectful word. We had a phenomenal conversation. He recommended me to several of his friends. We were idealistically aligned in a lot of areas. So do not think that because someone has more years of experience than you in a particular industry, solely by years, because guess what? Number of years does not equate to a knowledge gap. So just because you have had more years of experience than someone, it does not necessarily mean that you are more successful than them. It just doesn't. Because like I used to say growing up, you could smoke for 25 years and all you'll get is lung cancer. It's not about the number of years. If you don't know how to leverage the information that you have to reach a certain level of success, however you define it, then those years do not equate in the same manner. But in any event, no matter how much experience you have, no matter how many years you've been in a particular industry, you knowing how to communicate with me on a respectful level, that's a requirement. I don't care if you've been doing something for 100 years. Respect is the requirement. And so I want to encourage you all, for people with platforms who are developing things, who are out there in the world doing what they want to do with their lives, and who may interact with people who have these negative, aggressive tendencies, you don't have to engage with those individuals. And what you should not do, and what I refuse to do on the Speak Your Way to Cash platform, is elevate voices that are misogynistic, aggressive, and demeaning. So that's the choice that we've made as a company in terms of who we're going to be elevating and who we're not. So I just want to encourage you all, stay the course, do what you have to do. Don't be afraid to have the courageous conversations. For any woman out there who is confused about how to have those conversations or don't know who to report those conversations to, I had this is something tangibly that I would do in corporate, because sometimes when you work a corporate job, it's very difficult to have conversations like this with a superior, with your boss, or someone who can actually, determine whether or not you get a paycheck. Thankfully, I'm not in that position now, praise God. But when I was, I had a 3-person rule. So I would reach out to someone who had who had been in the industry and who'd succeeded in the industry for a long, long, long time. And before I would get offended by something, I would check with them to see their temperature on it. And then I would go to someone who I considered more of a peer and see had they dealt with that. And I would get some feedback about how I should respond. And if you're sending something in an email, have someone review it and read it over before you just hit send. So just tangibly, those may be some tips that you can utilize to deal with this, but you're not imagining these things. If you feel like someone is treating you differently because of who you are as a woman or your age or any of those things, it is likely there. Let's just validate that fact. That is how you feel. That is how that person made you feel. And the fact of the matter is, and there have been studies on this, you can feel someone's aggressive energy. You absolutely can. So you're not crazy. You're not losing your mind. You're not imagining things. These are not things that do not exist in the real world. And I think that sometimes, because everyone wants to just, people are very, if you look at the comments under Madeline's LinkedIn post, what you will notice is that so many people spend a lot of time, some are applauding, but there are other people who spend a lot of time saying, well, how do you know it's because of your race? And why would you assume that they're being discriminatory? And why would you assume this? Maybe they're just an all-around bad person. And all those things may be the case. But the fact remains that Black women are treated differently in workspaces. We are treated differently in society. We are paid differently in society. Those are all tangible facts. So no one's making that up. And there are people who, and I personally believe that I've been in contract negotiations. I've been across the table from some other people who do not look like me. And I do believe that they will treat other people differently. And I know that they will treat other people differently, because let me tell you guys this. I have had white colleagues who've noticed it, and they have literally me and them have done the same thing and we've gotten different results, and they've shown me behind the curtain of how that worked, and it's been from the exact same person. So this stuff is not stuff that people are making up. In terms of how I have dealt with that though, I determined a while ago that I was going to utilize my voice. You weren't going to come to me, be disrespectful and demeaning, and I not tell you that that was how that made me feel. Now, there are times when it is not worth it. I make a judgment call as to when those times are. But as it relates to you coming into my business and on my platform and me elevating your voice, when you're disrespectful, it's a hard no for me. So hopefully this was helpful. Just wanted to share some real-time feedback about something that I literally just went through. And I want to encourage all the women out there who are continuing to elevate, continuing to do what is required to build their brands and to protect their business and to continue to provide jobs and to continue to be mothers and wives and friends and everything else, all the other titles that we wear that have nothing to do with business. You know, shout out to you all. Women's History Month is coming up. I'm very excited about all the things that we have planned for that month and all the voices that we're going to elevate and celebrate. If you know a woman speaker who is phenomenal, who's fabulous, who has traveled all around the world, who's had unimaginable success in their speaking business, please reach out to me. I would love to elevate their voice. I would love to interview them on the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast. We do have a process that we go through to evaluate guests, and we get a lot of different submissions. But if you know a woman whose voice deserves to be elevated, they have accomplished some things in their speaking business and have an incredible back end that they wouldn't mind sharing with the Speak Your Way to Cash audience. We have people who listen to us in all 50 states and across the world. It's been such a gift for me to host this show and to talk to so many incredible people. It is rare that we get someone on the show who I have to immediately pull the interview due to their ego, I'll just say. But every now and then it happens, and it happened today, and it happened to be interesting. And it allowed me, though, the blessing in it allowed me to have a courageous conversation, to stand up for myself and my business, and to do it in a way that I'm proud of and that I can stand behind. And that is what I really, 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 I'm just excited about that, because there was a time when I was new to business that I would not have said anything. I would have just sat with it. And I think that people who engage in that type of bad behavior, they plan on you being that way. So I'm glad that I was able to stand up for myself, protect my platform, and ensure that we're only elevating the right voices. That said, we have a lot more time to elevate some great voices this year. So if you know of someone that we should be elevating, please do send me a LinkedIn message or email me at ashley@ashleynicolekirkwood.com, and I'd be happy to review the submission or have our podcast team review the submission and get back to everyone who would be a good fit for this show. All right, have an awesome day.